Hi friends! In today's short video, I wanted to share a plugin that I recently built called Wordbreaker. So in Figma currently, when you're renaming layers, it's very easy to remove spaces or to remove certain characters because it's a straightforward process. You're just matching a character and then replacing it with nothing. So for example, if we wanted to remove the space between the rectangle and the number, we just select our layers, do rename, we can match for the space and click rename. The problem is that if we happen to have layers that for some reason do not have spaces and that we want to add the spaces to, the basic renaming function is not intelligent enough to make that happen. So this plugin attempts to solve that. So in the playground file, which you can get from the plugin page, you'll see an example of icons with the names consisting of multiple words and with no spaces in between those words. So to add spaces, you'll select all your layers and then run the word breaker. You can choose either hyphens or spaces to add in between the words. And then you wait for it to finish. And now you should have spaces in between the words. One thing to note is that this plugin uses OpenAI to figure out where one word ends and another one begins. So sometimes it can give weird results, especially if you have prefixes or some words inside your layer names that are not really words. So for example, at work, we had prefix MDY and then the current name. And so something like this is more difficult for the plugin to figure out. It's still going to add spaces between like drop down, chevron, and up. But then for MDI, it could do something weird, like think that each letter is its own word or something like that. So if you do have something like that, fortunately, because each prefix is the same, you could first do MDY and replace it with MDI and space, and then run the plugin. And hopefully avoid any sort of weirdness with the result. All right, so that's the little demo. And I guess one thing is that I did make this plugin before the new Figma features got released. And one thing that I think could be really cool and that would make this plugin totally obsolete is if the new rename layers feature also allowed you to input some instructions. So for example, here you could first choose to name your layers if you just have like frames and groups everywhere. Or if you have a case like this where you need to add spaces, you can just let it know to add spaces. Or if maybe you wanted to keep no spaces, but you wanted to turn this into camel case and just capitalize the first letter of each word, I think that could be very neat and very helpful. And the last thing I wanted to say is since I am using OpenAI and OpenAI is not free, I did have to put this plugin behind the paywall, but you should have 7 days to try this plugin out and to use it for free. And if for some reason you have to use it for longer, it's just $2 a month. Obviously, don't forget to cancel your subscription after you're done with using it. I probably should have put it just as a one-time payment, but I didn't really know how pricing works for the usage, and I didn't really want to be on the hook for some absurd amount of money. Anyway, I hope this is useful for you if you have this sort of weird use case, and I also hope that maybe Figma just adds this into the new rename layers feature.